Welcome to the show. It's going to come on late and it's going to look bad. All right, nothing is real to me, damn it. The wrestling podcast that frankly looks like a mess right now, but will have better production value as it goes on. This is the first episode, so I can't waste a whole lot of time. I ain't got a whole lot of your attention to begin with, and I've only got 23 minutes of record time. So let's start off with AEW, the company that I frankly don't really watch because they're only on cable, and who freaking pays for cable? Anyway, but as a whole, the company's fine. Their roster is deep. I don't have any problems. I am not a tribalist. That's one thing you need to know about this show. We don't choose sides. We talk about everything over here. So who I like over there, man, I'm not mad that my boy MJF finally dropped the title to Samoa Joe. I guess I should have said spoilers, but you watched World's End by now. It looked like it was cool. I'm glad Eddie Kingston got 3 belts. I like Eddie Kingston. I like Swerve Strickland. Sting is, of course, the icon. I don't really have a lot of complaints about AEW. I wish I could watch it more. Timeless Tony Storm is some of the best character work of all time in wrestling. I don't care what anyone says. Now, moving on to the other big company, the Triple H era is coming in strong. I love everything that they got going on right now. NXT is hot. As of this recording, New Year's Evil is about to come on. I'll talk about that on the next episode. But there's been some free agent action going on over there. There's been a lot of big news. Triple H has been righting some wrongs from the past and bringing in big stars like Jinder Mahal and The Rock. But no, the way that they handled that was hilarious. The crowd was just like, "Really, bro? Jinder Mahal? This," and then The Rock comes out, you know. But as for the Rock versus Roman Reigns tease, I'm not gonna read too much into it. If they do, in fact, do it, it'll be just to solidify Roman Reigns as an icon of the modern era and sort of put him right up there alongside names like Hulk Hogan and The Rock, etc., etc. The Rock isn't going to beat Roman Reigns. It's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm pretty sure the special stipulation that's in the Tribal Chief deal, as he likes to put it, is that he gets to be put on that Mount Rushmore level of people like Hulk Hogan or The Rock, you know. But moving right along, some of the free agent action from WWE. I haven't seen where Rick Boogs is headed to yet, but I would love to see him go to WTF over there in MLW, which I will talk about later. But Ike Manjiro is in AJPW, All Japan Pro Wrestling. And we just saw Charlie Dempsey from NXT in AJPW as well. I don't want to give anything away, but he looked good. He looked good out there. Some people might go, "Oh, what those acting lessons teach him?" Nah, the man still knows how to put a submission hold on somebody. The son of Lord Steven Regal. You know, let's not discredit old Charlie Dempsey there. But I love seeing WWE work with other promotions. I hope we get to see some more of that. Like maybe we'd see a AEW versus WWE match or something like that. Who would you like to see? Leave it in the comments, you know, or send me a message on Instagram, whatever, or here or TikTok, whatever. Perhaps AEW versus TNA. And speaking of which, I've been getting into the indies later, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But Speedball Mike Bailey is sort of Mr. Everywhere on the indie thing. Like, I swear every time I'm tuning into an indie match, here's Brass Monkey playing. And I'm not mad because he's very entertaining. And as a side note, Masha Slamovich is also very dope. And Hard to Kill is only $40 on Triller TV Plus. I might pick that up. I don't know, but I'll talk more about pay-per-views later. Speaking of Triller TV Plus, that's sort of the app that helped open up this world of indie wrestling to me, along with this one here, YouTube. Watching things like MLW Fusion and NWA Power. Say what you want to about NWA Power, but I like it, and I'll talk about them a little bit more later. But I watched like 2 episodes of MLW Fusion, and bought into the hype of Fightland and went and said, you know something, I'm going to get the free trial, and then went and checked it out. And I loved Fightland. I like what they're doing with the brand invasion of WTF. It's like a play on 80s era WWF. They make jokes about how vascular everyone is. You know, it's like Alex Hammerstone, Josh Bishop, like the big guys in the indies, you know. But they also got Filthy Tom Lawler, who's very entertaining and also a good wrestler. He had an MMA career, apparently. I'm a little new to some of this stuff. I'll be the first to admit it. But I have dove head first into this world, and that's what we're going to talk about on this show. Let me see. The other things I dig about MLW, Second Gear Crew, Boomaye Fight Club, the Akira versus The Calling and Ricky Shane Page storyline has been really entertaining. And a lesser storyline, but humorous nonetheless, has been Ichiban getting called Itchy Bum by Rocky Romero and Selena De La Vega. I mispronounced her name. My bad. I didn't write it down in my notes. But other things in MLW, Jacob Fatu is the man. I need to buy a shirt of his as soon as possible. And he did his first death match in GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, which is a very charming promotion. I happen to like it a lot. They do a lot of the death matches. But I will admit that the deathmatch style of wrestling kind of takes me out of it sometimes, because they sort of zoom in and you can tell that they're not really doing the things that they're acting like they're doing most of the time. And that sort of ruins my suspension of disbelief. But at the same time, they're putting they're called gussets, but they're the big metal plates that you use to hold houses together, but they're like sticking them in their foreheads and stuff, so blood is just. But yeah, they're hell of insane matches. They did one in Mexico at a scrapyard. They call it Deshuasadero, which means scrapyard. It was crazy. The Nick Gage Invitational 8, light tubes everywhere. I felt bad for the audience because they were breathing in fluorescent tube dust. And parts of the following show, Aftermath. I don't want to give anything away, but GCW doesn't put on a bad show. If you're just completely against death matches, then you might not dig it. But they do have some story arc stuff going on over there. They did Matt Cardona versus Jimmy Lloyd, the different boy Jimmy Lloyd. He had a career versus Lil Broski match. He wound up, here's spoiler, but he wound up losing it. He had to become Matt Cardona's Lil Broski. So he basically turned this indie wrestling icon, or whatever you want to call it, this deathmatch guy, into the WWE superstar type. He's got, a Broski headband. He reads his promo off of his phone. It's very funny. GCW is very aware of what it is, and I appreciate that. And speaking of stories and stuff and free agents and things like that, a guy who's had some viral clips, Shane Mercer, was recently spotted at the GCW events alongside their champion, their heel champion, their very hated heel champion, Blake Christian. So that's going to be cool to see how that plays out. And Mustafa Ali, formerly of WWE and NXT. I really liked his run on NXT, but he abruptly left. But he's now doing that political campaign style on the indie circuit, and he will be at No Compadre in January 12th. Excuse me. I'm trying to do this in one take, y'all. But he'll be going against Gringo Loco, and that's going to be a really good match. And he did his first free agent match was in France. So yeah, he's doing his thing, man. I think it's really cool to see guys from WWE go to the indies and sort of come into their own. Cody Rhodes sort of set a precedent to be able to do that and come back and get your money. So let's see what Mustafa Ali does. Mustafa Ali, excuse me. Again, one take. But speaking of things that happen next week, January 13th, there's two big pay-per-view events that I'm going to check out. NJPW Battle in the Valley 2024 and NWA Paranoia. You can say what you want to about NWA, but I happen to find it very charming. I grew up watching NWA as a small child in the country when we called it rasslin. And we were all kind of in on the gag, but we sort of played along, you know what I mean? But I'll get back to that in just a minute. The Solon controversy of their infamous cocaine spot, the fallout of that is that they're still making cocaine references on their regular weekly show like they did at the Robarts Arena during a Southern Six promo. When the Southern Six is in town, there's always a chance of light snow. I love it. I love it. It makes my inner child happy. It's camp. They do not care if people like them or not, and I appreciate that. Max the Impaler is super dope. I love them. I want to see them beat Mims at Paranoia and get those 2 television titles. I think that would be very cool. Speaking of Mims versus Dak Draper, that's going to be cool, but the way that NWA does their storylines, they got the way that their roster is now, and especially with adding the territories, Exodus Pro Wrestling and Joe Kazana Promotions, they got a lot of wrestlers to work with. So their little 45, 50-minute show that they do on YouTube every week, Power, and soon coming to CW, they can only do about 3, maybe 4 matches. They usually only do 3 matches per episode. And they can't fit everybody every week. So you have to keep tuning in and see how the stories play out. But on the off-screen side of things at NWA, it was recently posted on Instagram, what is your New Year's wish for pro wrestling? Matt Cardona said, and I quote, he wants Billy to give him the damn ball. Billy being, of course, Billy Corgan, the owner and CEO of NWA. So that's going to be fun to see how that plays out. And just final thoughts here. I want to talk about my wrestling fandom. Like I mentioned, when I was a kid, we were watching rasslin, and it was on Saturday afternoons after cartoons. And as a side note, I love Memphis wrestling because their theme song, it goes hard, first of all. But he mentions Saturdays watching wrestling on TV. And that just spoke to me, you know. It was like, yeah, man. Because when I was a kid, Dusty Rhodes' hype of being the second most recognizable athlete next to Muhammad Ali, it was true in parts of the South. It really was. We clamored onto every word that Dusty Rhodes said. And he was just really the man. And my parents watched wrestling. We were all kind of in on the gag, but it was more fun to play along. And is it real? Is it not real? I can't tell. This is great. We love watching this. And that's why I still like watching it today. Like when NWA did their tribute to Austin Idol, and Austin Idol goes, man, you want to give me this cheap Walmart plaque? Like, is that real? You can't tell. That's what I love about pro wrestling. But I've been watching it ever since back in the day, and I was watching the Monday Night Wars. We would talk about what The Rock and Stone Cold said on Raw and what NWO did on Nitro. We didn't choose sides. We were trying to watch both, flipping back and forth. But that was great until the whole NWO thing kind of swallowed WCW and kind of became the not even kind of, it was the downfall of WCW when they just let everybody in NWO, and then they made a different NWO and everything's just NWO. It made it really stupid. But before Vince McMahon bought WCW and eliminated his competition, everybody just kind of played along because it was more fun that way. But the people who didn't like when he pulled the curtain back on kayfabe and showed you how the business worked, some people, they just lost the fun from that point and they stopped watching entirely. And I get it, because as much as I really like learning about how the business works and how do they make the buried alive matches work and everything, that's a rabbit hole that I don't really want to go all the way down, because it does sort of ruin the mystique, the mystery of the whole thing. But yeah, man. The way I got back into doing this, well, the way I got out of it was, honestly, I got tired of hearing Jerry the King Lawler do his little puppies thing that he would do. It just got really annoying, and I think JR was even getting annoyed with it for a while there. But man, I got out of it because, life catches up with you and everything. But I got to another point in my life recently, in the past few years, where I was just flipping around through the various streaming apps that we have, and I was like, oh, they got all the WWE stuff on Peacock. And I started catching up on old times. And like I mentioned before, I used YouTube and Triller TV Plus to catch up on things like AEW, MLW, GCW. And I've been really diving into that in the past few months. And now I'm so into the fandom that my son is now showing interest in wrestling because he sees me watching it. And now I have a podcast. I'm part of the internet wrestling community that loves to argue about things like ratings, which I can't. But to each their own. I had this whole thing prepared, but man, this is the long and short of it. It's like MJF said in that press conference, all the flavors of ice cream, man. I ain't hating on AEW, WWE. I love watching NXT. I'm going to watch New Year's Evil tomorrow night when it airs on Peacock, because I don't have cable. That's why I don't watch AEW. See how I brought it back around. But Jacob Fatu, Swerve Strickland, Cody Rhodes, Jordan Oliver, Zack Sabre Jr. These are all very talented people working in very different companies. And man, it's a soap opera with live stunts. And if you can't dig it, then I don't know what to tell you, man. It's just as real as anything else in a world made of atoms comprised of mostly empty space. So much like life itself, just sit back and enjoy the show.